Hey there. So this video is intended on an observation on why we get tight, using some uh, things I've been educated on, but also maybe things for you to just explore and try and see if you can kind of get out of that tightness. So breaking it down to the two main reasons why you get tight. All right. The first one, the first main reason is overuse, is doing the same motion over and over and over again. This one is probably the most instinctual. We could be sitting in a chair for a long time and then eventually feeling tightness from just the position that you have to take. Your body would adapt to that position and actually tighten up to keep you there for longer. And then the second reason is that our body has an innate alarm system. And if you set that off by detecting threat or something like that, you are going to experience tightness as a response. So the first one, overuse. We can break this down into two kind of things. I think, again, the first one, the most instinctual and obvious, is if I am doing this every day, that I'm going to feel tightness through my hand, through my wrist and stuff, forearm, elbow, because I'm doing this over and over and over again. The other kind of breakdown of that would be more of a description of the acceleration in the process of overuse. If you're doing something with both hands, and let's say I'm punching a punching bag, I don't know, whatever this was, but let's say I'm punching a punching bag with both, and I deliver force, and maybe I'm delivering more force with this side. Maybe I'm doing it in a different way that my body has figured out that it works. This may get overuse symptoms faster than this if this is doing it efficiently, or if I'm stronger on this side, like I'm doing it, this is what will feel like it's taking the brunt of it. So I would say that, to summarize that, compensation and asymmetry are things that contribute to overuse even faster. All right, and that will result in tightness. The other one is a little bit, I don't know, it's a little more interesting, I guess, like maybe something that we weren't aware of, or maybe, yeah, hopefully I can walk you through it simply. When stimuli is presented and we perceive it, so, I mean, we could look at that as something as simple as like the air is cold. Maybe when it comes to movement, I'm going to lift my arm up, right? And the stimulus I feel is the wind on my skin, the gravity here, the perception of my joint closing in the front and opening in the back, lifting weights and then holding big heavy weights, laying down, standing up. Any of these things that our brains perceive as happening to us, things that feels or senses in any way, any capacity. These are like the stimuli. These all run through a very specific channel. And actually, they take two directions. The first direction, the fastest direction, goes to this protect the system, really alarm system we have. And then the other one goes to the hippocampus for further processing. So it's trying to actually reason out in logic, like, okay, this feels tighter because I've lifted my arm. That's normal. The logical side of our brains can actually kind of think through, that's just wind on my skin, or it's cold outside. Relax, I'm not going to freeze instantly. The amygdala, this alarm system, it all travels through the amygdala. That will detect a threat, and that might think that cold means that we're going to freeze right away. That might think that the closing of this joint is going to rip our labrum. That might think that as soon as I hold heavy weights, I'm going to fall again, because the last time I held heavy weights, I fell. It detects these threats and then immediately secretes the hormones, sends into a process of protect the system, and you'll go into a fight or flight state. This has many different facets. We won't get into that, but it basically changes the entire workings of how you are going to, how you're going to function, how you're going to move, how you're going to think. It takes over. It completely takes over as soon as a threat is detected, because we did not get this far as a human race, really as any organism, without a good sense of how to protect ourselves, and then a fast track to react to it, to be faster, to sense these threats and then protect ourselves. That is the main function of really one of our, I don't know, I guess most deep set portions of our brain. So ironically, that what happens when it does perceive a threat, it will tighten things in response. Physically, what we feel is tightness when fight or flight kind of happen, and we're going to be stronger and more stable. We'll be able to stay still. Protect ourselves becomes a lot easier when tightness is added, and that's what that alarm system does. So now that we have those two, how do we fix them? What's the solve? So the solution is when things are overused. The joint itself is probably, maybe inflamed, which it has its own, you have your own fixes there. But as far as the muscles go, let's say, we do something with our arm a lot. Our elbow feels funny, but really, our bicep or tricep gets overused. I'm going to use those as an example, just to the bicep as an example, so that we can kind of walk through what you would do. An overused muscle wants to be walked through, handheld through its full range of motion, to know that all of these tightnesses and stretches are safe. So when you do find that you are tight in, say, your bicep, taking it through maximum shortening, so knowing where this muscle attaches exactly, identifying that muscle, it does help. But for instance, the bicep flexes the elbow, okay? It also flexes the shoulder, and then it supinates the wrist, forearm. So if I wanted to do all three of those things, I would supinate, I would bend, and I would come all the way up. Now, not as high as you can, okay, but more just as far as it'll allow you to go. So I do all three of those things, and my bicep feels very tight. Then I'm going to do the opposite, and I'll take it through, and I will pronate, extend the elbow, and then extend the shoulder for a full stretch of the bicep. Take some breaths here, go through, fully shorten, and then fully lengthen. Now, as long as I don't do anything crazy intense, as I take my muscle through its full ranges, what it should end up feeling is more of a general soreness than a tightness, than an ache. It got work, it needs to recover from that, but that tightness and inability to move it around, you will alleviate by walking it through its full ranges of motion, okay? Then the second one, a little bit more complicated on this one, but more complicated because we're dealing with a system that happens in your subconscious. You can't just blow through it. You have to fully respect the fact that this thing is like a 4-year-old toddler, that you can't tell what to do exactly, but you need to influence it because it's your responsibility. So what that looks like is more of a focus on the actual joint, the bone. Very smart person, Gary Ward from Anatomy of Motion specifically, is has laid this out the best I've seen, and that is that joints act and then muscles react. So usually in that threat, the brain is concerned with the joint and will tighten the muscles around the joint to protect, right? So if you're trying to, I guess I'll use plantar fasciitis, maybe, is the best one. Yeah. Okay. So in plantar fasciitis, the bottom of the foot usually hurts. We feel the heel pain, but this is usually a whole system thing. So I like this example the best. And plantar fasciitis is a lot of times, you definitely could be overuse on one side or all that stuff, but the body's alarm system usually is the one that pushes it to the foot, unless there's any direct impact or injury, trauma to the foot itself. It usually gets upset with something else on the back line, like your back or your hamstring not doing what it's supposed to do, and will shove that problem down to the foot. So
when you're addressing the foot, let's think about the heel bone instead. All right, so the actual bone of the heel. Now the heel can roll side to side, front and back, and do small rotations. But what you would do in order to kind of fix that tightness is take it through exactly that, the roll. So I'm gonna lift my toes up, and I'm gonna put my pressure on the heel, and I'm gonna roll it side to side, like this. Side to side. And what I'm doing is allowing the perception of the heel on the ground to permeate through my system, and for my alarm system to either be set off or not. If it's not set off, that's awesome. Let's try the front and back. I'll go roll it forward, roll it backward, roll it forward. And if, let's say that rolling it forward, ooh, my tissue is now detecting threat. My Achilles tendon is now getting pulled. The bottom of my foot is starting to ache. Like the same traumatic feeling is occurring when I roll it forward. This is probably the thing that it doesn't like, that my system is not sure how to deal with, thinks something bad's gonna happen, and where I'd like to start addressing it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna basically, after I've identified that, I'm gonna look at the joints above and below it. So the actual foot. Now, when the heel rolls forward, I should feel this navicular bone flatten out and the big toe move forward. Now, if I'm going forward and I see that my navicular does not and my toe grabs, then whether or not these are a cause or effect here, I know that this is experiencing a threat and these aren't doing their jobs. So I have a good idea of, well, if I can drop this navicular and send this big toe out, I might ensure safety for this heel to roll forward. So I work on actually spreading that. I see the navicular fall. I see the big toe travel forward as I go. And if that eliminates some of the threat, that's wonderful. That's exactly what I'm looking for. I'm bending my ankle as well because I've checked the joints below it, and I'm going to check the joints above it. I'm going to bend the knee. I'm going to see if the knee goes in and out as well, or really more importantly, forward and back. And in all this exploration, I'm just slowly but surely taking my joints
through safe ranges of motion to explore this issue. If you do sense threat, or if the body is freaking out about it, don't continue or push through that. That's not gonna you don't just drag that 4-year-old through it necessarily. You show him or her why it's safe to go through. You support it by giving it, giving it a handrail, giving it a incentive, educating on why it can be safe. And then you wait for the allowance. So as you do this and you do it successfully, the system will recognize the lack of threat or specifically point out where the threat is, and you'll experience less tightness in that joint. After that, after the joints are all moving, the bones are all moving, then you can start to address the tissue itself, meaning, if you notice, oh God, the calf is super tight actually. Like I did all this other stuff, my bones are moving, the pain has changed a little bit from the heel. It's more of a dull ache than this sharp hurt. But I feel a lot in the calf. Then go ahead and stretch the calf. Then go ahead and try addressing some of the other tissue things similar to the overuse injuries that you experience. Most importantly, getting rid of the threat. And when you start to separate these two reasons, as far as like why you might be tight, you might find that all of your strategies work better because you've properly categorized where the tightness is coming from. I hope that helped. You can always ask me questions, which I will probably answer eventually. And thanks for watching this video.